Do hard things if you want to live. Do hard things if you don't want to live. Do hard things if you want to live. Approximately 2,000 years ago, a man named Paul wrote to the Romans. He said many things, among which, not only so, but we also glory in our sufferings, because we know that suffering produces perseverance. Perseverance, character, and character, hope. Romans 5:3-4. This verse has been instrumental in the last few years of my life. This ancient wisdom has spoken to me a truth that was ingrained early on in my life, but I lost it somewhere along the lines of my young adult life, when the world seemed to make arguments from every angle for how easy life should be. Yet, the natural progression of these words revealed a familiar truth. Suffering endured creates perseverance. The experience of perseverance produces character, and character gained gives us hope. To suffer is to tolerate, experience, or be subject to something bad or unpleasant. But suffering is akin to breathing in the sense that if you are alive, you will experience bad and unpleasant things. You will suffer. To persevere is to give effort regardless of difficulties, failure, or opposition. This is what Stephen Pressfield talks about when overcoming resistance. This is what Angela Duckworth talks about when practicing grit. There is no perseverance, there is no grit, there is no overcoming without suffering. Character is defined as the mental and moral qualities distinctive to an individual. Let's remember that moral qualities pertain to the principles of right and wrong, or holding high principles for proper conduct. The word character can be traced back to a Greek word, charakter, which was defined as a stamping tool. How convenient is it that the word we use to describe our own rules for conduct was once used to describe a mechanism with the primary means of distinguishing. The primary use of character was to brandish a new form for aesthetic or functional use. A letter without a wax stamp would fall open. A letter without a postal stamp goes nowhere. A bowl without a brand is stolen or lost. A silver coin without a stamp would be unregulated and require further testing to be accepted in a transaction. A person without character chases their own tail. However, a person who has built their character through perseverance is likely to persevere again. They are likely to know just what to do when faced with difficulty. Character is weak without practice and perseverance. Paul's final promise in this short verse is hope. Hope from a character developed through persevering suffering. Today's English defines hope as a feeling of expectation and desire for certain things to happen, as something aspirational. In older English, hope was defined as a feeling of trust. I think this older English is more akin to Paul's original Greek. This older English is more akin to how I understand the word faith. By going through hard things, you test and build your character. In difficult experiences, your framework for decision making is softened. By engaging your strife with whatever courage you can summon, you seize the opportunity to harden your framework for decision making. Your character becomes a testament to practicing perseverance, and then will serve you with greater force than would be required to act with brute force as a lesser individual who did not enact their endurance. I'll quote James 1:2-4. Consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Let perseverance finish its work in you, so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything. Isn't that awesome? So too, consider it pure joy when I tell you that these ancient truths have been bubbling up through scientific findings in neuroscience in this very 21st century. Next, I'll share with you a clip from Dr. Andrew Huberman. You see, there's this area of the brain called the anterior-mid
cingulate cortex. As we pointed out before, that's a noun, it's a name, it doesn't mean anything. Right. We could call it the Cookie Monster.
Right.
But what's interesting about this brain area is there are now a lot of data in humans, not some mouse study, showing that when people do something they don't want to do, like add 3 hours of exercise per day or per week, or when people who are trying to diet and lose weight resist eating something.
Right.
When people do anything that they, and this is the important part, that they don't want to do.
Right.
It's not about adding more work, it's about adding more work that you don't want to do.
Yes.
This brain area gets bigger.
Yep.
Now here's what's especially interesting about this brain area to me. And by the way, I'm only learning this recently because it's new data, but there's a lot of it. The anterior-mid cingulate cortex is smaller in obese people. It gets bigger when they diet. It's larger in athletes. It's especially large or grows larger in people that see themselves as challenged and overcome some challenge.
Right.
And in people that live a very long time, this area keeps its size. In many ways, scientists are starting to think of the anterior-mid cingulate cortex not just as one of the seats of willpower,
right,
but perhaps actually the seat of the will to live.
See, now we're talking.
And when I learned about the anterior-mid cingulate cortex, I was like almost out of my seat. And I've been in the neuroscience game since I was 20. We're the same age. And I was so pumped because I've heard of the amygdala, fear, prefrontal cortex, it's planning and action. I could tell you every brain area and I teach neuroanatomy to medical students. But when I started seeing the data on the anterior-mid cingulate cortex, I was like, whoa, this is interesting.
Yep.
And all the data point to the fact that we can build this area up.
Yep.
But that as quickly as we build it up, if we don't continue to invest in things that are hard for us, that we don't want to do, that's the part that feels so Goggin-esque to me, that we don't want to do. Like if you love the ice bath, yeah, I love the ice bath, and you go from 1 minute to 10 minutes, guess what? Your anterior-mid cingulate cortex did not grow.
None.
But if you hate the cold water, if you're afraid of drowning and you get into water and put your head under, then your anterior-mid and survive, then the anterior-mid cingulate cortex gets bigger. But if you don't do it the next day, or if you do it the next day and you enjoy it, because hey, I did it yesterday, woohoo, happy me, Merry Christmas, as you would say.
Merry Christmas.
Guess what? The anterior-mid cingulate cortex shrinks again.
Yep.
To me, this is one of the most important discoveries that neuroscience has ever made, because it's that I don't want to do something but do it anyway.
That's right.
That grows this area. And it's almost like I have a friend, he's been sober 30 years from alcohol. And he always says, you know, the amazing thing about addiction is there's a cure. The problem is it only works one day at a time.
Yep.
Man, isn't that just the coolest? That we not only can build our bodies through strength training, running, eating well, but we can also build our minds. That we don't have to be the same static characters for the rest of our lives. That we can choose to dedicate, to persevere suffering, to build our character in order to live with faith, without worry, without fear. But with an assuredness that we have been through it and we can go through it again. I hope that you understand that you are a dynamic character, that whoever you were born as is not who you are today, and who you are tomorrow is not who you are today, and who you will die as is not who you are tomorrow. We have the opportunity to change our lives every moment. So, will you do your best to persevere suffering, to build your character, to have hope? I'll try to do the same. I hope you enjoyed this. My name is Christian Dossett. Thank you for listening.